the goal here is that we're going to be building an entire project from scratch. So today we're going to be starting with a little bit of planning, a little bit of what we're building. I'm going to be talking about some of the technologies that we're going to be using, and hopefully, well, basically we're going to be just using a bunch of things, building as we go, and hopefully that will help you learn what we're doing and how the technologies work together. That's the goal. And what was I going to say? And basically, after each session is going to go for about an hour. I'm going to try to make sure that we have something finished by the end of every hour. We maybe talk some basics, talk some principles, answer questions in the chat room, and then you should get a recording available the next day. From what I planned out in the roadmap, this is going to take us about 10 sessions. If things take longer in certain parts, or we do certain parts faster, we'll see. But the idea is that we're going to be doing this for the next 10 to 20 sessions, which should be about 5 weeks, I guess, 5 to 6 weeks. And by the end of those 6 weeks, you'll be experts in, or you'll be really good at building things from scratch with React, GraphQL, serverless, and we're going to be using a design system to help us quickly prototype our product. My goal is to start completely from scratch, as I already mentioned, and by the end of the series to have a launched product that you can use, that I can use. And basically what we're building is, if you're on my mailing list, you've probably seen that at the bottom of most emails, let me show you what, wait. Oh, I'm gonna need to open Safari to show you exactly what it looks like. So if I go into Safari, I'll be able to show you one of my emails because I lock my inbox in the evenings. Let's see. So basically right now I'm showing you what we're going to be building, and we're going to write down a document of requirements. I'm also going to be sharing let me see, I can just share this with you right now. So I'm going to get a shareable link. Anyone with the link can view this. So this is our roadmap for the next couple of sessions. Okay, so that's the roadmap, so everyone can see. It's roughly split into sessions, but we'll see how fast things go. So what we're building, or the product we're building, is, let's see, from Hi at Swizzets. Okay, here we go. So if you're on my mailing list, you've probably seen this before, but I want to show it again so that everyone knows what I'm talking about. At the bottom of all of my emails, I include a little form, a little type form that looks like this. So it asks, did you enjoy this email? And it's a scale from 0 to 5. And when you click on this, you go to, that's weird. I hope it's not doing that for everyone. So you go to a type form, and you can then answer a couple of questions that help me write better emails. The idea is that we are rebuilding this in a way that works better, is easier to use, and also looks more intuitive to people who are actually interacting with it through the what's it called, through the actual emails themselves. So instead of having a, let's start by writing down the requirements, and I'm gonna do them in the Scratchpad here, and then move them over. The requirements I'm going to share in the write-up that you're going to get tomorrow or the day after on Teachable or whatever platform I end up using. So requirements. It's always a good idea to write down requirements for the product you're building beforehand, because that way you can know, you know when you're done, and you know whether you're making progress. So we are now doing this part of the roadmap. We are sketching out the product. I'm explaining the user story right now. We're writing down the requirements as I explain the user story. and then I'm going to draw some mockups by hand so we kind of have a rough idea of what we're building. Alright, so the requirements are, we need a code snippet, so we need an entry point that is a thumbs up and a thumbs down. Thumbs up, down entry point. We want to be able to share this in me as a email sender. I want to be able to embed this in an email. So we need an email code HTML snippet with this. So email HTML snippet. And I want to be able to have some sort of interface where I can say create a new snippet and attach questions. So UI for creating snippets. And then we want some easy way of copying it into the clipboard so I can paste it somewhere. So easy way to copy pasta. And then let me show you what it looks like from the other end when I'm actually when I'm analyzing what people are saying. We need something that looks like this. So we have, let's see here, when I go to all of my post emails, I can see for each email how many responses I get. So we want a UI for seeing responses, and we're gonna be doing this kind of, so thumbs up, down entry point. Then this is kind of the admin interface. For seeing responses, we want to see how many each thing got, and then we're gonna want to see a ratio of up down ratio. And when I click into one of them, you can see the answers to specific questions on those. So if I go into results, I can see which questions I asked, and I want to see all of the answers. So we want to see list of answers, and we probably want some sort of some way to identify who specifically made some answers so that we can either follow up with them or do whatever. So we need user identifiers, and then when you do the thumbs down entry point, afterwards we need a what? So for the end user, we're also going to need some sort of UI for answering questions, follow-up questions, and this is going to have to get saved somewhere. So this is what we're going to be doing with GraphQL. I don't need to write that down separately. So follow-up questions, and then some cool thank you page, and maybe a call to action once you finish answering the questions, like, hey, can you share this with somebody or whatever. So this is basically the product that we're building. And the main reason we're building this product is because it's simple enough to explain. So I was trying to find a product that is both something that I want to use, something that I think could benefit other people if they were using it, and it's also complex enough that we need to build a React front end. We need to use GraphQL to store what people are doing. We're going to be using GraphQL to store so that's the requirements, and then let's write down the technologies. So we're going to be using a React admin UI, and then we're going to be using a React UI for end users, and we're going to use serverless DB for storing stuff. We're also going to be using GraphQL interface for both of those. So we're going to be using GraphQL mutations store data, and we're going to be using GraphQL queries for admin UI, and we're going to have Gatsby, which is going to be our essentially static UI generator, and we're going to be using Gatsby to do all sorts of things. Well, basically everything that's going to be user facing and living in the browser is going to be Gatsby. So all UI, statically compiled forms and statically compiled admin stuff, admin UI. What else? And we're going to be using a static file server to host static file. So serverless DB to store stuff and serverless GraphQL backend. We might end up using more serverless than that, but this is all that we need for now. And we're also going to need some sort of static file server for hosting. This is going to be either Zeit or Netlify. We're going to decide that when we deploy Netlify, and we're also going to be using Gatsby for what else are we going to be using Gatsby for? We're going to use Gatsby to host our landing page. So landing page, because like I said, part of the project is that we are launching this in the next couple of sessions. By the time we build it, we're going to be launching it, and I want to be able to launch it with a landing page that has copy, conversions, and all of that. And we're going to be using Stripe for monetization. I'm not sure yet exactly how we're going to be monetizing it or what makes sense to monetize, but probably some sort of subscription for people to be able to use it. We'll see when we get there. And for our design system, we're going to be using a React theme with React and themes, so that you can see how to build how to create building blocks that we can then use to build UIs and to do that in a scalable way. Yes. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna sketch out anything by hand because it's probably gonna be. We can do that when we get there. So I'm gonna copy this into here so that you can all have it available. So this is going to be requirements. So we got this, and if anyone has any questions at this point, I would be very happy if you ask, because the next step is going to be setting up our development environment, the GitHub repository, and everything so that we can get started. See, we just spent, in 15 minutes we designed an entire product. And where's my mouse? So technologies, cool. Okay, so those are our requirements and the list of technologies that we're going to be using, and then we can get started if nobody has any questions at this point. All right, so I can close this because actually I'm gonna ask you a question. Does everyone understand what we're building and what the goal of what we're building is, or where are you putting the notes? So I just copy pasted the notes into the roadmap file above, link in the chat room, and I was also doing it in the Scratchpad. Maybe I should add this to the README file when we make one. Okay, so I'm gonna start by, well, this project doesn't really have a name yet, so we're gonna call, what should we give it? We need a should I put it in random coding or in workshops? Let's put it in random coding. That's where I do all of my stuff. By the way, is this can you see the bottom edge of the screen, or should I move my terminal up a little bit? Is this limited to email, or can this be implemented for blog posts, etc.? Great question, Nico. My initial use case is for emails, but I want to also create a open source React. Basically, you should be able to immediately embed it anywhere that supports HTML. And we're also going to create a React component that you can import into any project that also lets you do this. So you'll be able to just import a "did you enjoy this thing" React component, render it anywhere on your page or on Gatsby, in your blog, even in MDX, to be honest, and it should just work. But we're gonna start with static HTML snippets that you can paste anywhere that supports HTML. Please move it up a bit. Okay. Moved it up. I'm hoping that's high up enough. So what should we call this? Did you enjoy this email? Does it spark joy? Did it spark joy? The bottom of the screen is visible. Okay, so I'm gonna try avoiding the complete bottom of the screen anyway. Excuse me. What should we name this project? Let's call it Spark Joy. Spark Joy. Did it spark joy? Does it spark joy? Spark joy is enough. So, okay, cd random coding, and we're going to say make dir spark. Let's start from GitHub. So we're gonna start on the GitHub end, create a repository, because if we do it on GitHub, it automatically creates README and license files for us. What is MDX? Great question, Jason. MDX is like a modern version of Markdown that lets you use JavaScript directly in Markdown. So imagine if you're writing Markdown, but you could also directly render React components or run JavaScript code or whatever. So that's basically MDX. It's becoming more and more popular, especially for Gatsby blogs, where people are using it to be able to pretty easily insert dynamic stuff into their writing. I'm hoping that answers your question. Spark Joy. A little widget to ask your fans if what you made sparked joy. Oh, and let me zoom this in. Okay, it's going to be public. We're going to use a README. We don't need a git ignore, but we do want this to be MIT license because I like to make things open source. And this also will let you use whatever we're building in your projects and wherever. So it's going to be perfectly open source. You'll be able to do whatever. Cool. Now I'm going to git clone the project. So we created the project on GitHub, and I'm cloning it to my local machine. cd spark joy, and we have a license and a README file, and I'm going to move things. So I'm going to open the Spark Joy project, and we're going to start with the README file, which is a Markdown file. So we're going to say Spark Joy, a little widget, blah blah blah, forever, and we're going to say that this was created during a live video series. During a live video series, and I'm going to say that the roadmap is here so that we have a central place where everyone can look at things. And then I'm going to copy over the scratchpad. So scratchpad, and I'm gonna take this stuff. So requirements, like that, and we say bam, Now I should be able to, okay, so git status, git commit -a -m, update readme with the plan. And now if I push this to master, we should get a readme file here that's updated with everything that we've talked about so far. Cool. So that's the roadmap, those are our requirements, and these are the technologies that we're using. Perfect. So the next step, if we look at the roadmap, we have now done all of this, and we are at the dev environment. We have a GitHub repository. Now we're going to create a Gatsby project. Let's see, how do I create a Gatsby project? Right. Give me just a second, I need to go blow my nose. All right, I am back. Oh wow, that's so interesting. There's so much delay between what I'm saying and what's happening and the live stream that I literally came back before I told you that I'm leaving. That's funny. Okay, so I'm going to now create a new web app. So okay, so our GitHub repository is going to be split into two parts. We're going to have the front-end Gatsby part, which is going to be a normal-ish Gatsby web app, which we're going to start from the Gatsby boilerplate, and then we're also going to have a server folder, which is where we're going to be putting our serverless stuff. And we're going to start with the Gatsby front end because that is that's the approach that I find works best. Because that way we get something visual, we can start hacking around and we can see how things work. So to create a new Gatsby project, we're going to call Gatsby new web app, and I already have the, let's see, Gatsby -v. I have Gatsby 2 point something installed. Let's check that that is the latest Gatsby. It might make sense to update. Gatsby. Let's see. Let me update Gatsby just to make sure that I have the latest. Install Gatsby -CLI, and we will see if that updates the version that I have. If you've never used Gatsby before, you are gonna have to use npm install -g Gatsby CLI, otherwise you won't be able to start new projects. Okay, so if I do Gatsby -v now, we are on 2.6 and there's an error. I just updated it. Okay, so we're going to say Gatsby, okay, this is gonna help. Opening a new directory or a new terminal window is always a good idea. Spark Joy, and I'm going to say Gatsby new web app, or should we let's call it front end. Front end is going to be easier to understand. So this is now creating the entire Gatsby project structure, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna be using Yarn because I prefer using Yarn. Main reason I prefer using Yarn is just that it's got more emojis and looks shinier. It used to be faster, but I don't think that is the case anymore. So that's installing the Gatsby project. Let's see. It installs a bunch of dependencies, which is kind of silly, but that's how it is. It's the JavaScript ecosystem, you know. Okay, so it took 40 seconds and it installed. Now we can create the directory backend, and in the backend we don't need anything yet, so I'm just going to put a file in backend that is called git keep. Wow, that is a hard combination of syllables to pronounce. So git keep, and we write that. So now it's not now. I don't know if you're aware, but Git tends to drop empty folders. So if you put a hidden git keep file in your folder, that keeps the folder around. Git add dot git status, and we have both the backend folder and the frontend folder, and we're going to git commit -a-m and say init Gatsby frontend. Like that. We go into the frontend directory and we run Gatsby develop. Let's see, Gatsby develop, and now I'm gonna walk you through what Gatsby created for us, and you'll be able to see the loaded page, or rather the initial bootstrapped page. If we go to localhost 8000, I think, yes, so it's at localhost 8000. We can go here, and we have the Gatsby default starter, which starts with an index page, and you can click to go to the second page, and that's about it. That's all we have from the default Gatsby starter. One thing you might notice is that when I'm clicking this, it's super fast. That's because Gatsby is really good at being super fast. I'm gonna now so I don't actually know how to open. Wow. Explorer. Okay, so we have the backend and the front end folders. If I show you what's in the front end, well, that's cool. It shows me the outline. So the front end now has all of the node modules that Gatsby comes with. There's a lot of those. I'm not going to go into them. There's a cache which holds our current compiled version of the entire app. It comes with a git ignore with configuration for prettier RC. Comes with its own README that has some quick start information that we are not gonna really look at too much. Then we have package.json, which tells us the dependencies, and we should probably rename this. So let's rename this. So one important thing, because frontend has its own package.json, it means that backend is also going to have its own package.json. So we're going to have essentially two npm sections in the same project, because the backend and the frontend are essentially like different projects, except they're working together. And if that doesn't make sense, please raise your hand in the chat room. We're going to be talking about it more as we go through the sessions, but that is going to be, you'll notice in the future that that's going to be a common mistake that we make, is that we're going to be installing npm packages in the wrong folder, and it's kind of unfortunate, but that's just, it really does happen. So we're going to say that the name for this is SparkJoy Frontend. We can call it private, and we're going to say this is the frontend for the SparkJoy project. SparkJoy project version, that's fine by me, and we're going to say that it was created by moi. Okay, and we have a bunch of dependencies that we don't really have to think about right now. It gives us Gatsby, it gives us all of the image magic. I don't know if you noticed, but when I reload the page, if you look really carefully, you can see that this guy is blurred at first and then becomes unblurred. That's a image loading optimization that Gatsby does for us semi-automatically. It's configured, but it comes pre-configured with it, and it's doing it with the image file. With Gatsby image, Gatsby plugin manifest. I'm not actually sure what that does, to be honest. I think it has to do with service workers. Offline gives us offline capabilities if we enable them. They're not enabled by default. React Helmet is for defining page header stuff, so everything that goes in the head part of our HTML is thanks to React Helmet, and we're going to talk about that. Sharp is another thing to do with Sharp, and Transformer Sharp has to do with image optimization. Gatsby source file system is a way to define pages for Gatsby. We're going to talk about that later. And then we have React and React DOM and React Helmet. So those are our dependencies. If we look at Gatsby browser, Gatsby browser is where we're going to be writing some specific stuff that's going to only run in the browser. So only when Gatsby runs in Chrome or Firefox or Safari or whatever is it going to run stuff from Gatsby browser. We're going to be using this in the future to set up our client-side GraphQL libraries. Gatsby config comes with a bunch of configuration for our site that we're about to change. Gatsby Node.js, we might need this in the future. This is where we define new nodes for the GraphQL engine that lives with Gatsby. And SSR is for server-side rendering stuff that we don't need to change any of right now. I forgot to give you a recap. So Gatsby as a whole is a, how should I explain Gatsby? So Gatsby is you can think of it as a static site generator for React. The idea is that it gives you a bunch of tools and an entire ecosystem for building pages or static sites with React. So you can build with React as the same way you're already used to, except it compiles and doesn't run React at runtime. Or essentially it does a bunch of stuff at build time. So when you run Gatsby build, it sets up your entire page so that it works even if JavaScript is disabled. And then when it loads in the browser, your React takes over and you have a dynamic web app. That's the general approach we're going to be using to have really fast UI, and you'll see how it plays out as we go through it. What else? So in the public, okay, we have a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter, and then in source we have right now some components, 2 images and a bunch of pages, and these pages are how we create new pages for Gatsby, and this is also something we're gonna see later on when we start adding more stuff to the UI. But we're gonna start with just so the general approach we're gonna be using is that at first we're gonna be doing everything on the homepage, building the entire UI there, and then moving other stuff to the other parts of the page. But we're gonna start with this because that's the easiest and we don't have to think about it too much. Does anyone have questions before we start changing the Gatsby config to customize it for our project? Right, this is where the 20-second delay is really hard. Okay. Nobody seems to have questions at this point. Cool. Okay, awesome. So no questions. We're gonna start with updating our Gatsby config so that it's actually custom for our thing. The site metadata, instead of Gatsby's default starter, is going to be Spark Joy, and you see Gatsby immediately reloaded. As soon as I change this, it reloaded here and updated the title. And our description is going to be: ask your fans if what you made sparked joy, if what you shared sparked joy. And we're going to say the author is Swizzats. And then we have a bunch of Gatsby plugins configured, and we're going to be adding here later on. Oh, what is this? This is new. Minimal UI display. I'm not sure what that actually does, but okay. Oh, so these are options that something is using. Cool. So Spark Joy immediately showed up here. And what else can we do? And if we enable Gatsby plugin offline, we get PWA offline functionality, but we're going to be playing with that. When are we going to be playing with that? We're going to be playing with that before we're ready to go live. So what did the roadmap say we're doing next? We initialized the Gatsby frontend. We don't really need to initialize the backend yet, but we can set up React. Okay, so let's see, how do we set up React? Yarn add React. So React is one of my favorite. Ooh, they changed this. So React is a design system / suite of components for React that I like using for quickly prototyping really good UIs. And we're gonna be using this to do pretty much everything. So let me just make sure I know how to get started, because they may have changed this recently. So we are adding React, and I think we also need the theme. Styling. We're gonna also get the CSS in JS. I know there's a theme. Did they remove that? Basic concepts, yes, we know. I think they React redesigned their website on me, so now I don't know how to find the basic styles, but I know there's a theme. GitHub, maybe it's there. Skin, no, come on, it used to be there. Yarn add React, and yeah, they changed it. They changed the things. Okay. Okay, so React got installed. Do we really? Let me search for React theme, because we're gonna be using themes. React theme default. Let's see. I knew it still exists. Okay, so we're going to yarn add React theme default, and the idea of having a React theme is that this is going to enable us to use consistent font sizes, consistent colors, consistent everything throughout the entire UI that we're building. And this is just going to be easier. React system bootstrap. Let's see, what did Brent share? Loosely based on Bootstrap. I'm not that big a fan of that, because we're gonna try to use yeah, we're gonna try using CSS grids and Flexbox, so the bootstrap based approach won't be that useful, but I'm pretty happy that this exists because I didn't know it existed before. Okay, so we have the default theme. We're going to go into Gatsby. So if we look at Gatsby here in components, we have the layout component, and the layout component defines our here you can see that basically the layout component renders all of our pages. It renders a header, it renders essentially a div, a body div, and the let's see what happens if we remove the style. Come on, I know it should, yeah, see, it removed the styling that we had. So we know that all of our pages are rendered with the layout, which means that this is the best place to add the React provider and all of the other stuff. So we're going to go up here and say import theme from. We're going to create a new, let's see, should it be in components, page, so components, images, pages, we should create styles, but layout CSS is fine. So we're going to have a theme.js file, and this is where we're going to be defining the overrides for our custom theme. So we're importing theme from ./theme. What's it complaining about? I messed something up. There we go. Alright, so I'm gonna have to keep changing this to use React based styling, and here we're going to say, so we're importing the theme like that, and then we're going to say import provider from React like that, and the React is then going to render a provider with theme equals theme. And as far, if you're thinking about routing or worried about a route provider or any of that, don't worry. GraphQL comes, not GraphQL, Gatsby comes built in with all of that, so you don't have to think about it. That stuff works automatically. So we now have a theme provider for our React, which now we just need to actually make a theme. So our theme is going to import theme from React theme default like that. This is going to be theme.js, and the theme is going to, let me look it up. So Swizzet style components React, because I know, so yeah, React is all based on styled components, so a lot of things that you're used to are just gonna work automatically. And I'm looking at an old blog post of mine because I have dealt with setting this up before, so I just want to make sure I'm doing it right. Theme.js. So this is basically how you create a custom theme. We're gonna start with this and then go from there. So we're going to get theme as our basics. We're going to define a palette later and sizes and stuff, and we're going to export default with just our basics. So this is how things work for now. Here we can add, what did we say? Add component overrides here, and add color and size palettes here. So we're gonna deal with that later. This should now still look the same, but it doesn't. Object is not a function. Maybe we need to restart Gatsby. and let's see if that works. Might not, but I'm hoping it will. So this is now compiling our page, and it's not working because React theme default doesn't work anymore. That's a problem. React theme default what? Okay, React theme default version 0.2 on GitHub. Wow, it just doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so there's no more themes for React. That's interesting. Okay, so they definitely changed this. Let's see for styling. Doesn't depend on any components are unstyled by default, so you're free to use whatever approach you want. Each component returns a single HTML element that accepts all HTML props, including class name and style. Did you really go change this? Well, okay, that's a surprise. What's the migration guide? A beta version of React v1. If something is missing, I think it's gradual migration. No styled components. Dependency on styled components has been removed, which means we don't re-export its members anymore. You're free to use any version of styled components or another CSS library without worrying about bundle size. Okay. Since the core library doesn't care about styles anymore, these styled components have been removed. They can be recreated with styled components. Got it. Okay. Cool. Okay, so this is gonna be interesting. I tried using a theme. We don't have those anymore. So this is going to be a little more interesting. We're still gonna be using React, but I'm not sure how we're gonna do the theming quite yet. I guess we're still gonna use. Yeah, we're gonna figure it out as we go. So I'm going to say yarn remove React theme default. We're not going to be using that anymore. We're still going to be using a theme that we're gonna well, we're just gonna be creating a theme here then. So here we're going to be writing down our color palettes, add color palettes, etc. And then in our layout.js, instead of a provider for React, let's see about so we're gonna be using styled components because I like those. So I think there's a Gatsby styled components project, Gatsby styled components. I know that exists, and the reason you need Gatsby styled components is because these are more they work better with static compiling. So let's see. Install the necessary dependencies for styled components, including the Gatsby plugin. So let's do that. So we're going to say yarn add Gatsby plugin styled components, and Babel plugin styled components, like that. So we're creating all of that stuff, and then we'll be able to use styled components as basically the same way as we always would have. It's just that now they're actually going to work with Gatsby. So we go into Gatsby config, And here where we are defining plugins, we're going to add Gatsby plugin style components, like that. Do we need any other configuration? Oops, I put it in the wrong place. Goes here. Okay, so styled components, we can use them normally, import from style, yup. That's all gonna just work. User style sheet with a stable class name. We don't want those right now. Cool. Okay. So let's see if the Gatsby has any templating or teaming support. I'm just gonna call it a team. Building teams, perfect. Gatsby teams are currently experimental. I don't care, we're gonna use a team anyway. Let's make sure that Gatsby develop still works. So I'm gonna take the provider stuff out of here because it doesn't exist anymore. So provider, and because I have just the right, well, it usually works. But you notice me sometimes that I'm just typing the opening bracket of JSX or HTML, because VS Code tends to autocomplete the closing one. Let's see if our stuff worked, and then we're going to add the Gatsby team support, and that's going to be the end of this session, I think, and then we're gonna continue on Thursday. So we have localhost 8000. It should look the same as before. It does. Perfect. This actually means that it's working correctly based on what we've been doing so far. We haven't broken it. So let's see. Thank you, Jordi. What are the teams for then if they're not for styling? But you're right, they don't look like they are for styling. These Gatsby Teams docs are considered a work in progress. What are the, teaming in Gatsby? It's easier to get started building shared functionality, data sourcing, right? So it's more like a template, I guess. Yeah, I'm looking for styled component teams as well. Let's see. I'm sure that already exists. Primarily, you'll see this a lot in these sessions. I'm gonna always try to avoid inventing things from scratch, and I'm gonna try to use existing stuff. Right, so Gatsby teams are, I guess, what used to be Gatsby templates. Interesting. So styled components teams. I know this exists. Advanced usage. Teaming, perfect. Team provider. Awesome, so this already exists. I'm happy I didn't go looking for it. Styled Components has full teaming support by exporting a team provider wrapper component. This component provides a team to all React components underneath itself via the context API. Wonderful. So how do we use this? We're just gonna call team provider with a team. And the team, medium use green, props team, perfect. So that's what we're gonna be doing. Cool. Thank you for mentioning that, Jordi. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. So we're gonna do. Oh, I guess we don't actually need to do anything, but we are importing the team from our team file, and we need to import team provider from styled components. So I'm assuming import team provider from styled components, and we render it here as team provider with team of team, and you see it auto-completed the bottom one. And now when I say Gatsby develop, we will have a team provider, I think. I mean, yeah. So Spark Joy, we now have a children expected to receive a single React element child. Yes, of course it did. So we can do this, blah blah blah, close it. So it needs a single child, and voila. So it doesn't look like much, but we now have so yeah, I'm gonna stop. This is gonna be the end of this session. I think we came to a nice point. I'm going to run git commit. So git status, git at source, git commit -a-m, set up React and styled components with teaming support. Okay, git push origin master. So we've come to the point where we have Gatsby set up so that we can start working on the initial parts of our UI on Thursday. We have styled components installed. We have React, which will give us some basic components to use for the UI that aren't going to be styled, but we're going to work with that. It's going to give us a bunch of default logic and stuff. We have teaming set up so that we'll be able to share themes and colors and everything throughout the entire project. And we have the GitHub repository set up, which I will share with you as well.